Welcome, everyone. Good to have you here. Today's client story is about a lady who had a one-sided hearing loss due to an infection, up to 90%. She booked 2 sessions with me, and I also gave her a recording to listen to and an exercise. And after a few weeks, her hearing came back. So I was super happy for that outcome. Yet if you listen to her words, it's really fascinating how the body sometimes is giving us a solution, not really a pleasant one in most cases, but some kind of a solution if we don't find a way any longer to deal with it on a mental way or on an emotional way. So she came to me and said, I don't want to hear that crap any longer. I don't want to listen to that crap any longer. She really was so fed up with what was approaching her from the outside. She really wanted to just block it off. So her body responded. She was referring to the rude customers that she had at work that were complaining all the time. And she was also referring to a family situation she was experiencing. Shortly beforehand, her mom had passed away. And she loved her mom dearly. It was very difficult for her to deal with the loss. So she was grieving a lot. Yet, within the family, her siblings, they were displaying quite some toxic behavior and were saying quite some toxic things. And she really wanted to just get rid of it, just not let it close any longer. The siblings, they were sort of bickering in regards to the inheritance. They were sort of trying to get some advantage there. So when we went back in one session, connecting to the part, it was very obvious that it was not only restricted to her hearing, her whole body was responding quite intensely. And for example, there was a lot of pressure on her chest, and it made it very difficult for her to breathe. She also sensed as if her hands and her feet were confined, constrained, tied up. So we went back to the first scene, and it was a very, very traumatic, sad situation she had to experience because she was molested by her sister's husband. Her sister was disabled and much older. Yet, within that moment, she was 10 to 12 years old. She felt she could not talk about it. She was in a catch-22 situation. If she would talk about it, about the experience of the molestation from the husband, probably her dad would be enraged and would beat up the husband, and maybe there would be a divorce happening to her sister. And she could not allow her sister to be unhappy because her sister was the sick one. And it was in her family system that everybody had to sacrifice themselves in order to serve those who were sick. And in that case, her sister especially. So if she would also share the story, most likely her sister would blame her and she would feel guilty for sharing the story at all. So she just kept quiet and did not talk about it. She had to swallow it. She had to suppress it. She had to split it off. Yet the sensation remained with her feeling tied up and the pressure on the chest. And she even mentioned like she felt being in shackles. So I counted her back to the next scene. And within the next scene, she saw herself in a past lifetime as a boy, confined in a cage. And she knew exactly that this kind of cage, so it was very unpleasant, but it kept her safe from the wild dogs that were on a leash outside because they would tear her apart. And she was very afraid of the things outside. She was owned by someone, she was a slave. And within that lifetime, she really had to surrender. She had to give up everything that was about herself, all her dreams, just every own need had to be suppressed in order to just work and just serve as the slave. She was quite happy when she died at 45 to finally be released from that experience. Yet sometimes when we experience these kind of lifetimes, it's like the sensations stay with us if they are not processed properly, if we cannot find a way to release them. So it came into her lifetime now. And within the family structure, she really felt very similar, like in that cage, because she really had to encage everything about herself. In that family she was growing up in, it was all about the appearance to the outside, giving a good image and just giving the impression that it's a good family life there and everyone is honorable and so on. So whatever was going on inside, whatever was broken underneath, just stuffing it in. And after that scene, she was still mentioning how her perceptions were very intense in her body. So I asked her to connect to that part which was creating the suffering inside her, which was creating the health issues, and seeing it in front of herself. And when she looked, she saw her split of parts, a wounded younger version of herself, all the rejected, all the abandoned parts were standing there. And she saw this younger girl in front of herself, yet she could not feel any compassion because she had to really disconnect from it so much that it was almost impossible for her to build this compassion towards everything she had experienced. And very often, this self compassion is one healing aspect for us. So I asked her to just hold this wounded self and just allow herself to connect to the heart and sense what's going on there with this wounded self. And it really took a while for her to just feel some sense of compassion. And I really asked her if she could do it on a daily basis, just meeting this dissociated part. And she slowly could, but it's still, later on, she mentioned how it was still difficult for her. Yet, I mean, in regards to the hearing loss, I find it very interesting how the body was finding this kind of a solution, which really was unpleasant for her, but was allowing her also on the other side to really not have to deal with whatever was being shaken inside and was coming from the outside, which was not coming from a good place, a kind place. So, yes, I think that might be the last story in regards to physical issues. And I'm planning to do my next video about the role of the black sheep. And yeah, that's from me for today. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Take good care and goodbye for now.